Welcome to another edition of Bible Time. This is Tuesday's edition, and I think you better buckle up your seatbelt because we're in for a wild ride today as we look at 2 Chronicles chapters 21 and 22. After 4 chapters of the good King Jehoshaphat, now these next couple of chapters are not going to be a very pretty picture because Jehoshaphat, before he died, he set things up for his sons. His oldest son would be the next king. The other sons, he set them up in fortified cities, areas around Judah where they could provide protection for the people of Judah against invading nations. But Jehoram, first thing he does after getting settled in as king is he kills all his brothers. Apparently he thought that he saw them as threats to his throne. Who knows what? It was a very evil act for him to do. And here's where you're going to start seeing some of Jehoshaphat, some of the things he did kind of naively. One of the things he did was make an alliance with Ahab, the king of Israel, and that's going to come back to haunt the people of Judah because Jehoram, the son that becomes king after Jehoshaphat, he marries the daughter of Ahab. And you remember what the theme is here of Chronicles? If you seek the Lord, you'll find him. If you forsake him, he'll forsake you. And that's what you see Jehoram doing. It hints at that in verse 20, in verse 6, when it says he did evil in the sight of the Lord. But then in verse 10, it clearly says he had forsaken the Lord. He had forsaken the Lord. What happens when you forsake the Lord? He forsakes you. And that's what you're going to see happen here. But in the midst of all of this, the author is wanting to give a message to the people that he's writing to, and he's trying to write an encouraging letter in the midst of all of this evil even that's going on. And so you'll see something like in verse 7, it says, "Yet, although he forsook the Lord, he did evil in the sight of the Lord, in spite of what Jehoram's doing, the Lord was not willing to destroy the house of David because of the covenant that he made with David." And so he's reminding the writers that it doesn't matter how evil these kings are, the Lord is being faithful to his covenant with David. And this is an interesting little account here. You read about a letter that comes to Jehoram from Elijah the prophet, and he rebukes him. He says he's acting like the kings of Israel. And of course, Elijah knew what that was like very well because he ministered up in the northern kingdom of Israel. And he prophesied a gruesome ending to the life of Jehoram, which is going to come about exactly like he said. And then it says, in fact, at the end of the chapter, in verse 20, he departed with no one's regret. He forsook the Lord forsook him. He had killed all of his brothers, so those fortified cities weren't up like they should be, and there were other nations invading him. This was a bad time for Jehoram. Well, he dies to no one's regret. His son Ahaziah becomes king in his place. And you see further consequences of Jehoram's terrible reign and Jehoshaphat's alliance with Ahab. It keeps going on. Ahaziah makes another alliance with Israel, which winds up leading to him getting killed under Jehu, the revenge that God was bringing against the northern kingdom through this man Jehu. He was bringing vengeance on the line of Ahab, and Ahaziah falls into that, and he winds up getting executed. And so who takes over? Who takes over when Ahaziah dies? Well, his mom, Athaliah. She reigns. She's the wife of Jehoram, and so she was the mother to Ahaziah. But we're told that she was the granddaughter of Omri, who was the most wicked king in Israel until his son Ahab. So she's the daughter of Ahab, and she seeks, what you're seeing there is that she's out to destroy the Davidic line. You see that there in verse 10. She's out to destroy all the royal family. Well, this could be disastrous. God's made a covenant with David, and that's being stressed throughout the book of Chronicles. This is a crucial point in the history of Judah because this woman, she's out to destroy the whole Davidic line. But one child is saved, one baby is saved by Jehoshaphat, who is the daughter of Jehoram, the sister of Ahaziah. She winds up being married to one of the priests, to the priest, and she saves this baby. One courageous, godly woman is used by God to save the Davidic line. And that's to point out to the people reading this that even in the midst of all the evil, there were still some faithful people. God's keeping his covenant. There are some people who are faithful. There are some people who are trusting in God's promises. And this baby that gets saved is eventually brought up inside the temple. That's going to be significant to the people that we believe Ezra is writing to in the Chronicles. They're people who are with a rebuilt temple, serving the Lord, seeking to be faithful, remembering the covenant, and they know that the Messiah hasn't come yet, but they have renewed and strengthened hopes for the coming Messiah. And so this is in the midst of the evil of Jehoram, Ahaziah, and Athaliah. You see God being faithful, and you see that there were some faithful people. And the encouragement to them and to us is to be those faithful people who will trust in God and his promises. And that's an important place for you and me to be living right now, being faithful to the God and trusting in his promises. We're living in evil days. We're seeing all kinds of chaos, corruption, and confusion going on all around us and really all around the world. And yet God is being faithful to his promises. We need to be faithful to him. So let's keep our eyes on the Lord. Let's remember his promises, and let's give him the honor in our lives today on this Tuesday. And we'll see you tomorrow for more Bible time.